What is happening, Internet? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to Kwingsletsplays. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And, it's more Riddler. Yay. We're not done. We're in our own little purgatory where this is never gonna end. Every day's gonna be Arkham Origins. You're gonna come on the channel and you'll be like, is there gonna be something else? No, because we're somehow not done with the Riddler. Haha. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's great. I love doing this. This is great. Yep. Wanna keep going after Riddler stuff. Yeah, every day. Before breakfast and dinner. And no. And then somebody was reminding me, they're like, well, after Arkham Origins, you have to get back to Arkham Knight. It's like, yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I know that, John! Thank you. Thank you so eloquently for putting that. I'm aware of Arkham Knight. I know. I know. Believe me. I know. I know. Oh, I know. It's Eddie Inception? Yes. Yeah.
Alfred, what's on your mind?
I feel terrible, Sam. I prepared such a lovely ham for you tonight, and now you'll never have a chance to eat it.
We can have it tomorrow.
It's just not the same.
Christmas ham on Christmas morning isn't exactly the end of the world.
I don't know, sir. I'd say it's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he marinated and seasoned that ham perfection. Whenever you heat something up that wasn't cooked, like, the day it's cooked, like, even right after it's cooked, it's... words can't express it. But if you wait, and you do heat it up, then the microwave... Even if you reheat it in the oven, you're best to reheat it in the oven. But if you reheat it in the microwave, don't bother. It won't be the same. Speaking of my dinner tonight, I made mistakes. It was edible and I ate it, but sometimes experimenting is not a good idea. Now, in the past, I've added lettuce to nachos, and that was a good idea. Adding ham and Thousand Island dressing and different types of cheese blend was not a good idea. Oh, yes. So not only did I add nacho cheese sauce on the bottom of the plate and then put lettuce on top of it, which is fine. I had no black olives. I had no bacon for taste. I put too much different cheese variety. And then I decided, you know what usually goes on a salad? Salad dressing. I'll leave it there. Not smart. I have a stomach ache like you'll never believe. Ugh. That was not wise. Yep. But, you know, that's what you do when you have leftovers. You combine things and you hope that it works. And this time, it didn't work. Quite the opposite. Very opposite of working. Ugh. Well, I mean, I figured, hey, you know, you can put bacon on nachos, and ham is also from a pig. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Everything can go wrong. Because ham, while it is from a pig, it is not necessarily bacon. Bacon is from another part of the pig, or it's cooked a different way that it makes it bacon. This did not taste like bacon on nachos. Live and learn. Why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up again. Now that we know not to add, say, ham to nachos, we won't be doing that again, now will we? Of course not. Why? Because it tasted disgusting. That's why. It was slimy, it was hammy, a bit stringy, it didn't go well with the nachos. Ergo, We're not doing that again. My bad. Get over here! I wanted to do the slam! I'm gonna go through the door before you get here! Ha 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 ha, no!
Ah, crap! Another one!
Why are you calling people? There's nobody here.
Anyone left? Need a hand here.
The biggest hand. One where your feet reacted after I threw you into the ground. Makes sense. Okay, here we go. I mean, it doesn't... You guys don't understand. Paramount is the smartest option. But Hollywood is not going to go with the smartest option. Even though Paramount is the lesser of two evils between Netflix. Netflix has to own Warner Brothers because they're that evil. There's nothing that is... They can sue Warner Brothers. They can do whatever they want. They can get the U.S. government involved. They're going to sell to Netflix. They're going to screw up their brand for 4 to 5 years. And then by 2031, Warner Brothers will be sold again, and someone better may buy them, or someone worse. It's not going to go. Logic and common sense do not apply. Okay? You have to stop thinking like a normal person, and have to start thinking like a person online. Because the message is all that matters. Common sense and reasoning, no, you can't have that. They will never, ever, 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 this time, sell the company to a company that actually makes rational sense. It's not going to happen. The fact that they rejected the offer 8 times, in reality, here's the thing. Paramount could offer $150 billion with like half the shares in their company, and Warner Brothers would still say no. Why? Because they're crazy. Okay? It doesn't matter. They're going to go with the worst possible option. It's Warner Brothers. They never make any sense. Stop trying to look at this objectively. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean to anybody, but it's just like these people are so... This is like when science... Like, basically, globalism is a cult, okay? It's like Scientology, except not as, well known. Like, most people know about how crazy activists are and, like, the cultism and stuff like that and identity politics. People online know about that. People offline have no idea. In fact, all the things that we argue about online, nobody cares about offline. Because most of these weirdos that cancel people and do stuff online, they don't act this way in public because they have no power. They can't fire you at your job for using the wrong pronoun. It's illegal. Because if you do that, then you sue your employer. They can't do that. There's nothing that says you have to. The state of Pennsylvania where my wife works, like, if somebody tries to fire her, she can sue them. Because, like, it's wrongful termination. Like, you can't, like, force... There's no U.S. law that says you have to use someone's pronouns. It doesn't exist. They want to make it a law, sure, but it's not real. So all the things that they do online, it doesn't matter in real life. Like, the reason why they wanted so much control of the internet and the media is so that they can change the laws. So that they can change public opinion. And they lost public opinion. Okay? But Netflix is so set in their ways, they're going to buy Warner Brothers, they're going to race swap, they're going to do whatever they want. And Warner Brothers is going to be, they're going to be used and abused, and then they're going to be tossed aside like a dumpster baby on prom night. That's all it is. You know? Netflix is trying to take Warner Brothers to prom. They're going to knock him up. And they're not going to take responsibility, and they're going to dump the baby. It's that simple. I hate to do that approach, but it's true. Everybody can see it. It's just what they're going to do. You know, they're romanticizing Warner Brothers, and Netflix has their own plans. They do. And their plans are going to be disastrous. It's going to be bad for comics. It's going to be bad for video games. It's going to be bad for movies. It's going to be bad for TV. It doesn't matter. Because Netflix has convinced Warner Brothers that they are the moral authority. And here's the thing. The only reason they don't want to go with Paramount is because one person, maybe one or two people on the board of directors at Paramount are conservatives. Gasp! Ah! It's like dealing with Satan incarnate! Oh my gosh! I mean, seriously? But that's their reasoning. That's all they talk about. I've seen Twitter. They're like, did you know that Skydance, they have conservatives that work for them? Not conservatives! Oh my gosh! It's the end of the world! It's like, seriously, grow up. But, you know, they're so obsessed with their little politics that they can't, you know, they can't see that, you know, people are going to lose their jobs, companies are going to close, video games aren't going to do anything. You know, they're going to keep losing billions and billions and billions, but it doesn't matter. They believe they have the moral high ground. They're Anakin Skywalker. Could you convince Anakin Skywalker not to jump at Obi-Wan? Don't do it, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power. Did Anakin jump? Anakin jumped. So, Warner Brothers is Anakin. There's nothing you can do. You would have to have, like, the amount of... You want to know who could do somebody? Elon Musk. If Elon Musk waved his money around and he bought whatever, Warner Brothers... Yeah, but no, Paramount, they're never... They can sue, they can be reasonable, they can be like, we're right, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Even if they took initiative and they, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say they fired the conservatives that worked for Paramount, which would be stupid. Like, people of difference of opinions are allowed to work together and have a job, right? There's only one group that believes that you need to fire a person that disagrees with you. And that's not the group of rational thinking. But even if that happened, you want to know what the internet would say? They should have fired them years ago because they're brown shirts. Don't sell to them. So, it doesn't matter. It's not. It's going to go to Netflix. Everything's going to get royally ridden and thrown out. I hate to tell you that. I hate to be vulgar, but it's true. You know, it's like watching a girl being romanced by two guys. One guy's a jock who only has one thing on his mind. He wants the beautiful lady. You know, he wants her on prom night. He's going to keep pressuring her. And then you have the guy who's her friend who's been waiting, you know, in the friend zone forever with a bouquet of flowers, and he's going to treat her right. She's going to go with the jock who's going to bang her brains out and then, you know, not even deal with the consequences because the jock is going to leave her. It's all it is. It's just, that's reality. You can either accept reality or you can reject it. But, I mean, it's not going to change. The fact that they keep, like, rejecting every single offer, you know, there's an infatuation between Netflix and Warner Brothers, but Warner Brothers is stupid as all get out. So, it doesn't matter. Well, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but, you know, half of Paramount is progressive. Half of Paramount is conservative. All of Netflix is progressive. More than half of Warner Brothers is progressive. Paramount is 50-50, or Paramount has some, you know, whatever. Because they deal, shocker, they pay, Paramount gives money to both the Republicans and the Democrats. If you look at their political, whatever it's called, like their contributions, as they call it, they give to both parties. Whereas Netflix only gives to one. Same thing with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is very, according to the practices of David Zaslav and some other people, he gives a lot of money to the Democrats. You know, people are entitled to use their money whatever they want. It's their money, right? But people can't, you know, be like, well, yeah, of course, you know, and then it's like, well, yeah, they're not going to give to Paramount because it's not in their best interest because they believe they're fighting some type of holy war, some crusade, you know, against, like, all kinds of stuff, but they're going to lose so much money. But I don't really care anyway, because, I mean, Warner Brothers has been crazy forever. The thing that I cared about, the biggest thing that I was concerned about, is that Japan was going to lose their soul over globalization, and they smacked it down! So I'm happy, you know? The type of entertainment I watch is secure. The stuff you guys watch is hosed. I'm sorry to say it, but, you know, the type of entertainment that I enjoy is going to be safe for the next, like, who knows, 10 years or whatever. Or longer, because the Japanese have completely, not just rejected the idea, they have demolished it. And they are going to work towards safeguarding their properties. I mean, it's over. They were trying to make a foothold, all those freaks and weirdos. You know, in Japan, they were moving over there. They were starting consulting groups for anime. It's done. Japan's like, yeah, no. The fact that you now have, what is the count now? 17 animation studios and 15 anime directors are all saying the same thing. No to Western politics. Game, set, match. It's over. You know? There's nothing like Japan. The battle for Japan's soul is done. It's over. That was the biggest thing. And so for us, which are gamers and anime fans, we should all be celebrating. Who cares about the West? The West is going to be like Rome burning. The West is screwed. The West should have put their foot down, you know, 10, 15 years ago to prevent the spread of this, but they had to be inclusive. They had to do this. They had to be that. You know, it's over. Rome's going to burn. It's going to burn to the ground. There's nothing you can do about it. So your best bet is, if you have a problem with certain things, for one, don't say anything online about it. Just don't watch it. You know, going forward, because people will get, like, these people will not just try to destroy your life, they'll try to end you. We've seen it. You can't have a difference of opinion because you literally have people now who will use violence to kill you. So the whole idea of, like, agree to disagree, yeah, that's what independents and that's what, you know, some other people say, but there's a whole group out there that doesn't believe you have a right to a difference of opinion anymore. That's not the America I grew up in. That's the exact opposite. I never had to worry about, like, having a debate with somebody over something, like, in class, and then worry about them, you know, coming to gut me like a fish the next day. That's the reality that some kids are going to have to deal with if you disagree with somebody now, because they've seen that political violence is okay, and they still talk about it. There was this lady who, I think she has the wrong opinion about, like, you know, federal agents, but she's clapping and having a nice time to a country music song. So what happened? Well, some Blue Sky person and TikToker made a video, and the poor lady actually has a breathing apparatus in her nose. So what did the kind-hearted person do to make a video response to her? You want to know how he dealt with her difference of opinion? He took the cord and mimicked cutting her oxygen supply. Does that sound like rational people? Now, again, that's not all Democrats, mind you, but, I mean, that's the face of the Democrat Party. They're saying, if we don't like you, we're going to end you. I mean, you can't really argue with those types of people because it's not safe. I don't think people understand the message that they're sending when you do that kind of stuff. When you make a response video to someone's TikTok and that person has, you know, horrible disease where they can't breathe, and you say that if you were to deal with the problem to kill them, I'm sorry, but you have no moral authority. That's immoral behavior. As well as you are putting the idea in somebody's head, you're right, I can't get along with these people. Let's kill them. Yeah, but I mean, this is why I told you guys for 7 years. That is the end game of wokeism. It is just like the Nazis. Kill your opponent. That is the end game. If you ever see an ideology that you cannot agree with, their rational thinking is to destroy it. And not just destroy it, but wipe out the people that believe in it. You want to know who had the same point of view? The Nazis. They couldn't get along with a certain group of people. What was the rational conclusion that they came after, like, really thinking about it? Well, we can't get along with these people, so that wasn't the correct response. Obviously. But this is why I hate wokeism. Is because that is the end game. They want to take away your ability to say, hey, you are a biological dude, you can't get pregnant. They're like, how dare you? Yes, I can. They want you to play make-believe with them. If they tell you, hey, this person has been a man their whole life, and now they're a girl, or whatever, you have to accept that. And you have to be like, okay, well, I guess it's a shame they couldn't get pregnant this time. Maybe they should keep trying. You know? They want you to throw away your principles, your conviction, your notion of right and wrong, and embrace their version of everything. And only then will they be your friend, or only then will they allow you to exist. And if you deem the opposite, your life is over. That's not how we do things in America. How we do things in America is, I don't agree with you, you don't agree with me, let's be civil about this and discuss it, and see if we can find common ground. That's how Americans do things. That's how I've done things for 30, 40 years. Even with my learning disabilities and my dyslexia. I try to meet people halfway because that's the American thing to do. You know? But, you know, there's just some people that they can't be reasoned with. They're like Heath Ledger Joker, you know? But I don't think those people should cease to exist. I think those people need help, and I think those people need to reevaluate some things in their lives. But I don't believe anybody that you disagree with you should utterly silence. I think you should find some way of communicating with them, because that's why we're human beings. We talk. We use our voices. We use our words. We don't use violence. You know what I mean? So I can't get along with the group that is trying to use violence to hurt people because I don't agree with it. It's not an American thing to do. It's terrifying. So when you have like this stance like me, then you're considered an enemy too. It doesn't make any sense. Like logically, it doesn't make any sense. I was having a discussion with somebody on Twitter today. They're like, what is your problems with this kind of stuff? I said, my problems, my biggest issue with this group is you can't disagree with them. That's the biggest thing. Like, if we could all come to some understanding, but they're not willing to sit at the table with you. They're the kind of people that if you're sitting at a table, they're going to knock over your table, they're going to make a big incident about it, and they're going to point attention to you for making them angry, when in reality, they're just very emotional people that are not in tune with their emotions, they can't control them, and they should really be getting help for that. But you're not allowed to say that. And that's the crazy thing. You should be allowed to say whatever you want. You know? You can't help people if they're not willing to listen. It's true, though. But that's my stance. That's always been my stance. But I'm deemed... The funny thing is, I get called nasty things by Republicans. I get called nasty things by Democrats. Woke people, anti-woke. Nobody really likes me because they say I don't pick a true stance. It's like, what's the true stance? I'm with you on this issue, but I'm not with you on the other. What's the problem? Why can't I be a part of both groups? Oh, I see. So I have to believe everything. You know, so that's where I am. I also don't agree with... I'll be completely honest. Like, something that always bothered me is when people started to really make money on this. Like, make money on like, talking about this and making, like, targeted thumbnails and stuff like that. It was very clear what our job was in the gaming industry. We were rejecting the erasure of pretty women and, you know, gender roles, male and female. We were against that. And we were against some other changes in video games. But then we had another group come in, and they're like, well, we're against this, and we're against that. And it's like, no, that's not what this is about. If you are going to fight something and do it correctly, you have to come to a common understanding that this is what we're after. We don't want people to mess up our video games. We don't want people to mess up our anime. You know, we need to be united on our opinion, and there were people who came in, and then they started doing the same exact thing as the group who, you know, changed their terminology to be an umbrella phrase. Then the other people, the grifters, came in, and they turned that into an umbrella phrase, and then everything just lost sight of what the goal was. And the goal was to body check, you know, stuff that we didn't want in our games and anime and our movies. That was it. But it became like something else altogether. Then it ended up in the political spectrum too. Like it was actually on the ballot. It was like, what? You know, this is just crazy. It's just been a crazy like 6 or 7 years. But like I said, I don't really care what happens to Warner Brothers because Warner Brothers, for whatever reason, they're super attracted to Netflix. They're going to go with Netflix. They're going to ruin their life. And then Paramount is not going to bail them out. Someone else is going to buy them and probably chop them up into little pieces. Like this network will go here. Warner Brothers will get like bought, like divided and sold the next time it's sold because it's going to be worthless. Because Netflix is going to run it into the ground. Because they can't help themselves. Your legs hurt so much? Did you take your BP? Do you want, a yogurt? Would that help? I don't really know how to help with muscle relief, honey. I don't have any Gold Bond or anything in the house either. I thought Gold Bond helps with muscle pain. Because I used to put on Gold Bond like after martial arts sometimes. Okay, honey. Wait, my stream got killed? Hello? Yeah, but, I mean, Disney is a safe option with Marvel because they're not... How do I explain this? Like, Disney, even though it's, like, some of it is corrupted, right? With the removal of Kathleen Kennedy, and you have to understand that John was basically an understudy of George Lucas. Like, John is a big fan of the Lucas like version of Star Wars. If John was if John was the head of Star Wars back when the Force Awakens trilogy came out, I'm going to tell you this right now. Luke Skywalker would have had a bigger role. Luke Skywalker would have been respected. Mark Hamill would have been happy with the characterization of Luke Skywalker. And Luke would have done some pretty amazing things while passing the baton correctly to Rey. Everything that was done under Kathleen Kennedy was a mess because she had a lot of hurt feelings over her time at LucasArts and Lucasfilm, and she wanted payback. That's why she deconstructed everything that was Star Wars. She did it on purpose because she was upset. That's all. When a lot of these people get power, they do so to get back at people that they don't like. Even when those people aren't around anymore, it's the principle of the thing. So Kathleen Kennedy had an axe to grind and took it out on Star Wars pretty much. Star Wars is in the best place that it could possibly be right now because you have somebody who cares about the characters and cares about the brand. Do you understand? Yeah, sorry, Dave Filoni. Sorry. I get John and Dave confused because they both work together. Like, sometimes, like, Dave and John have both, like, worked together on Star Wars and other projects, and they look similar. They're both big, fat guys. So, you know, sometimes I make the mistake of the two gentlemen because they're similar. Except one always wears a cowboy hat. But my main argument is... what happened to Luke Skywalker never would have happened under Dave Filoni's watch. Never would have happened. I still believe that Luke Skywalker would have died. Okay? But his death would have been handled honorably. his death would have been handled in a way that fans could have made peace with it. Under Dave Filoni, there would have been no Star Wars wars, like with Fandom. The Fandom menace would never have existed. Do you understand? It's because these characters are so important to people who've, had them in their lives for like 30, 40, 50, 60 years, that people are willing to fight for them. New people who come into comic books and the movies, they don't have the attachment to these characters that we do. So for them, race swapping or changing a character's identity, it doesn't bother them because they don't love the characters. They didn't grow up with the characters. They don't have an attachment to the characters. They don't have any relatability to the characters. They're just fictional characters to them. But for a lot of us, like post 9/11, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, these characters resonated with us the way that anime characters do for people in Japan. They were important. They're not anymore because they're unrecognizable, but during a time in our lives, they were important. They're not anymore because they've been bastardized, but they were important once. That's the difference. These people who came into our hobbies in gaming and movie and animes, they were never fans. They were like Mr. Beast taking a list off of a website and saying, hey, I watch anime too. I can do that too. I can take every mainstream anime that's on right now and say that I've seen it. Even pick mainstream animes from the past like 10 years. Make a list and put it on Twitter and be like, look, I'm one of you. I guarantee you he's never watched any of those animes. He even spelled Gundam wrong, so miss me with that nonsense. If you are a fan of Gundam, there is no way that you can misspell Gundam. I'm sorry, but my original tweet when I was looking at what he said, I was not paying attention that he misspelled Gundam, and I defended him, and I take it back. Because I don't believe he's an anime fan. I think he's just a rich kid who's trying to find a place to belong. Which is fine. There's no problem with that. Anybody can watch anime. Anybody can start. But I don't believe he's a legitimate fan, no. Because there's no person alive that I ever know to misspell Gundam. Because there's been so many Gundam shows in the United States. Also, he said his favorite Gundam show is Gundam, like Iron Blood Orphan. If he really was born in 1998, then his favorite Gundam show would have been Gundam Seed or like Gundam Unicorn or something like that. Something that would have had significance to him as a young adult when he was watching it in college or whatever. And he was born in 1998. None of the shows that he listed were any shows that he would have seen when he was in high school or college. Ergo, to me, he's not a fan of anime. Like, I don't think he's a die-hard fan. You can be a casual fan with anything. Comic books, video games, whatever. But what I hate is when people, like, they pound their chest for the fandom, but they're not really fans. It's like, why lie? Like, what's the point? Like, if he really was that big of an anime fan, why didn't he talk about any animes that would have existed when he was in high school, when he was in college? He's listing all things that have been popular over the past, oh my gosh, what is it? Past, like, 2 years? Maybe? And it does matter. It 100% matters. Because, like me, I've watched thousands of animes, right? In my heart of hearts, it is hard for me to pick a favorite anime with not including something that I saw from 30 years ago. Okay? I know there's a lot of great Gundam shows, and I appreciate that, but my favorite is Gundam Wing. And I will fight to the death to argue why Gundam Wing is awesome. You know? I believe Gundam Wing is one of the greatest Gundam animes of all time. And I've seen every Gundam show after. Every movie. And I think they're awesome. But Gundam Wing still resonates with me, even though it's 30 years old. That's what I'm saying. Mr. Beast, he's able to easily fool people, but I don't believe he is who he says he is. That's my reasoning. Because if you are a true fan of that kind of thing, then you would easily be able to talk about a show that came out back during that time. And talk about it in a way that is important to you. Like, these shows held meaning to us. Whether it was Kenichi's Earth's Mightiest Disciple, or Gundam Wing, or Outlaw Star, or, like, oh my gosh, Robotech, Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura, any of that stuff. Like, if you were really as old as you say you are, right? Then these shows would have, like, some type of, like, connection to your childhood. They'd be important to you. You would want to talk about them, even though they're going to call it an unk anime, which I hate when people do that. They talk about, like, 90s and like, early 2000s animes as now, oh, that's unk slop. It's like, ouch. That's painful. When back in the day, yeah, mainstream anime is the only stuff that would release in America because they didn't take the... It was very expensive to bring over, we'll say, risky anime. Did you know that, like, certain genres like slice of life and romance and comedy and parody were very rare in the United States for anime, like, distribution? Because anime studios didn't want to take the risk of sending them over to America because they were afraid they wouldn't make any money. That's why they were very expensive DVDs. To my knowledge, School Rumble never appeared on Cartoon Network. I had to buy the DVD when I first saw it, and you know how much the DVD was? For just, like, I think it was like 8 episodes? Not even 8 episodes. I think it was like 6 episodes on a DVD. The first volume of School Rumble cost me $80. That I gladly paid that price so that I could watch a genre that they weren't putting on television. And it was worth it. Like, I paid for every single DVD of School Rumble. And I was super happy about it because it was worth my money. But that specialty genre of comedy wasn't really very common on TV outside of, like, cable, like maybe the Anime Network or something like that. It was very, you know, it was risky. So, of course, they're going to bring over the shonen battle animes and, you know, things like that because they know that people are going to watch it. The Dragon Ball Z, the Yu Yu Hakusho's, the Big O, that kind of stuff. But, like, the more, like, we'll say, slow-paced things like romance and slice of life and rom-com and cooking shows, all that other stuff, was very scarce in the early 2000s and even the mid-2000s. It wasn't until streaming sites happened that they're like, okay, we're going to risk putting this stuff up subtitled and see if it gets an audience. And shocker, it did get an audience. Because people were looking for different types of experiences with, you know, media. Robotech is old. Ugh. Yeah, so I'm old. What of it? I still think Robotech was awesome. Yeah. Like, Amber was saying, like, she's enjoyed lots of different Final Fantasy games, but she still has her favorite. I'm the same way. You know, I've played lots of Final Fantasy games, but I still have a deep connection with, like, Final Fantasy IV. And I like, because I like Cecil the Dark Knight, and I like his story and things like that. And also, I like Final Fantasy VIII. And I know Final Fantasy VIII is not a fan. Like, many fans don't like it as much, and it's a very niched game. But there was just something very compelling about Squall and Company back in the day that it really, I don't know, it excited me more than everybody was always talking about Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy IX. And here I was with my Final Fantasy t-shirt and Final Fantasy flag waving that banner like Final Fantasy VIII. Like, yeah, you know? But I was the odd one out because all my friends didn't like Final Fantasy VIII. I was attracted to the romance between Rinoa and Squall. Like, I thought their story was cute, and it was like a high school thing. It was like if Zack and Kelly from Saved by the Bell ended up getting superpowers or something, you know? I liked that kind of stuff. I was a nerd, okay? I was a hopeless romantic. So, to see, like, two characters that actually willingly liked each other throughout the whole game, it was refreshing for me because with Tifa and Cloud, it was like, oh, it's the end of the world, so they slept together. It's like, oh, okay, well, did they really develop their relationship? No, it's just everybody's gonna die, and Cloud and Tifa, they just spent the night together, like, at the end of the game, on the last disc. So they're a thing? Oh, no, they're probably all gonna die. It was just like, you know, they're saying goodbye to each other, and maybe they would have had a you know, more extensive relationship, but no. No, Final Fantasy VIII was like, nah, skip that. These two kooky kids, they're together, and they have a weird future involving them being together, but they're still together. It was like a Shakespearean romance thing. It was really good. So I liked it. Was the combat the best? Not all the time, but I like the music. I like the plot. I like the characters. It felt very anime to me, whereas Final Fantasy VII was just like, everybody in the world loved Final Fantasy VII. And while I appreciated it, I didn't have the same, like, you know, fandom reaction to it that everybody else did. Like, for me, my overzealous reaction to things was Chrono Trigger. Like, Chrono Trigger got me into, like, you know, super fan mode with, like, my black jacket and things with Meryl and Chrono's face on it. Like, waving it proudly with my glow sticks and, you know, Chrono, that kind of thing, you know? Like, going to a rave and, like, really, like, shouting at the top of my lungs how amazing Chrono Trigger is. Like, I was that guy for Chrono Trigger. But Final Fantasy VII, no. And Final Fantasy VIII I liked, but I wasn't, like, that crazy guy that, you know, is willingly fight me over this, you know? It was like, I just really like it. But that's how you can tell someone is a fan, is if somebody is really a fan of something, they bring up something completely random about that did happen with the character, or like maybe a TV show they were in, or like a video game or something that was kind of goofy and different than what everybody else likes, but they can tell you why they really like the character. Most modern people, when it comes to comic books, especially quote-unquote new Tim Drake fans, they have nothing but disrespect to say about Tim Drake's 1991 through 2009 comics, his Young Justice appearance, and you ask them, well, why don't you like it? And they said, well, he wasn't himself yet. It's like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, he wasn't his true self, so I hate old Tim Drake. But new Tim Drake is better. It's like, why is he better? And they're like, because he's with Bernard, and it's just like, heaven help me that I don't, like, I don't hurt these people. Because to them, that's the only reason a character exists, is by changing them and making them relatable to them. They despise the character for, you know, how the character was, and they only accept if the characters change. In fact, they keep pushing for more characters to change, because they don't like them as their true... Because I would argue that Tim was always, you know, whatever, but once you change a character, then that character's forever lost. There's nothing you can do. It's a losing argument. But yeah, I found it really interesting that Mr. Beast was doing that kind of stuff. Because, like, I mean, somebody new to anime, yeah, that would be their list. And that's fine. That shows a variety and things like that. But you can't tell me that... I don't even think he copy and pasted it. I think somebody who runs his Twitter copy and pasted stuff. Because I know there's lots of YouTubers that have people run their social media because they don't have time. They're making YouTube content. You know, it's like when you contact YouTube support, you think you're talking to YouTube. You're talking to tech support in India. It's not a real YouTube partner support person. You get bounced around until, like, eventually a YouTube partner manager will help you. Same thing, like, if you think you're talking about Mr. Beast on his Twitter, it's not him. It's somebody pretending to be him. There's one data pack where? There is a data pack at the tower in the industrial area? Okay. But anyway, like, getting back to my original point. So I was having a polite discussion with this person on my Twitter, which is rare. And I respect this, okay? This person may or may not, you know, think about some of those things, and that's fine. You know, people are allowed to have their opinion. But what I respect about this person is they were having a civil discussion. There was no name-calling. There was no Uranist, Europhobe, none of that. And we were discussing a video where somebody was mostly being polite, but also, you know, they definitely lean toward the cult side of things. They made their video very objectively, but they're, you know, I can already tell what that person thinks based on how they talk. Like, you know, that was a video kind of punching down on people that... And it's funny to me, like, that person never would have made the video to begin with if they weren't losing. Like, if they haven't lost the culture war, they wouldn't have made that video. So they're at the point now where they're accepting that they lost and they're licking their wounds and they're going to, you know, try to reorganize. But they'll never get Japan now because Japan is like, nah, we're not playing that game. Which, yeah, that's all I care about. I gave up on Western media. Like, the battle for the West Soul is over. I hate to tell you guys that, but it will never... It's only going to get worse. You think it's bad now, it's going to get way worse. So for me, I already have my escapism. I've got games and I got anime. I don't have to worry about, you know, if I have a kid someday, what yeah, I have to worry that he or she is going to watch. I don't have to worry about it because I can select things for them to watch in the future. I'm not worried about it. I'll be worried about what they say at school, so probably end up homeschooling them or something. I don't know. But you can't really shield your kids from everything. You know, evil is all around you all the time. You know, I don't envy parents today. I think being a parent today, if you're trying to raise your kid right, I think it's like living in a war zone. You know, because you have people who are trying to undermine your authority as a parent all the time. I don't know what that's like, and I don't want to know what that's like. But that's got to be torture for a parent. Where before, parents were just like, they didn't really pay attention and just let their kids be raised in school. Now parents are actually taking an interest in their kids, which I think is good. I just wish that, you know, it was a more noble cause to just trying to keep them normal and not crazy. But who knows? Maybe I'll be blessed with kids someday and I'll have to go through the same thing a lot of parents go through. I don't know. That's up to God. I don't know what he wants to do with me. He's kept me around. He had me survive the heart attack for some reason. I don't know why. I'm still here. I don't know how much of a difference I'm making in anything, but here I am here. Here I am. Oh, I see what you were talking about. There is a riddle thing right over there by the tower. But anyway, having a reasonable conversation with this guy that may or may not have a similar philosophy to activists. And what he appreciated at the end of our conversation, because I'm done discussing it with him, he said, you know, he says, what I really liked about this is how, like, you know, civil this was. He says, this was the nicest conversation I've had in quite some time. And it's like, I agree, too. Because, you know, clearly you and I, we don't see eye to eye, you know, on some things, but we do agree on some things. And I said, that's what matters. You know, I think this was good. And, you know, I would talk to him again. I won't talk to him about that issue again, but I would talk to him about other things like Batman or anime because we came to an understanding. That's what adults do, though. There never would have been all these problems if people could actually come to a common ground. And unfortunately, I see it all the time. They're like, well, I can agree to disagree, but I can't agree to disagree on civil rights. It's like, what civil rights? The civil rights movement is over. That was in the 60s. What are you talking about? What are you saying is human rights? So you're saying that you won't have a civil, polite conversation and you're going to be a dumbass because you think that my stance is wicked for having common sense. And I told them to their face, like a couple of the people, I said, you know what? You know who you sound like? Adolf. And they're like, how dare you? It's like, but that's the stance he had. People came up to him and they're like, hey, you know, we can find a way to get along. We're all German. And he's like, no, you're not German. That's the same thing. And they do get really pissed off when you call them a Marxist or a communist, but that's what they are. They don't believe that they need to meet you halfway, and they believe that your opinion is evil. So they're not even going to entertain it. It's like, but your opinion is so tame, though. That's the thing. It doesn't make any sense. But I really wish that there were more people like this gentleman that I spoke to on Twitter today, because he's a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. And I will gladly discuss Batman or anime with him anytime. I have had my eyes open to the potential that not everybody who's a part of that cult is a rabid, foamed, rabies dog that is just there to, like, bite people's heads off. Like, every encounter with one of those people has been what I just explained. A rabid, diseased dog that's just trying to bite and infect everybody. Like, this was a person that was actually willingly to discuss things, and I respect that. Like, that is... I'm not used to that. And I really appreciated that. That conversation renewed my faith in humanity a little bit. A little bit. Because it hasn't been that way for 6 or 7 years. You know, there's just some people that I don't even bother discussing anything with because it's like talking to a brick wall. It's like, even if you have a sensible approach to something, you can't, whether it's talking about Batman or anime or whatever, they don't listen. Because they don't want to listen. Because they're told by their friends and their peer groups and their teachers that if the opposition, which I don't even consider myself conservative, but people do, if the opposition believes something that's against your philosophy, they're evil. That's what they teach. And that's how these people act. Which gets me mad because it's like, how can you have a polite discussion? And you've seen me go off on people too. I only go off on people that say, why would I be civil with you? You're this, that, and the other. It's like, because you be civil with people so you can come to a common understanding. That's what being an adult is. If you want to stamp your feet and act like a teenager, no offense, you know, go for it. But this is how adults do things. We don't go to work and then, you know, go to TikTok and say, man, I hate my job because I just found out I'm working with a Christian. Well, time to quit. No. What you need to do is you need to learn to get along with that person who's different than you. You know? They might not agree with you, but they're not going to go out of their way to make your life miserable unless you try to make their life miserable. That's usually how it works. So I'm hoping things will change, but I don't think it will. But my main thing that I was happy about is that the Japanese stood up for themselves. They've been being bullied by people like Kim Belair and all these other people were talking about going to Japan and forcing them to accept progressivism and all this other stuff. And, you know, the fact that the Japanese people are just like, you know what? Western stuff is the West, Japanese stuff is Japanese. We want to maintain our culture, and we don't really believe in a lot of Western ideals or policies or any of that stuff. Because we make products for our people. We make products for Japan. And, like, I could not applaud long enough. And the thing is, this is the thing about standing up for yourself. This is what people are afraid of in our country. One anime studio guy said it 2 weeks ago. The next week, 5 came forward. The next week, 10. The week after that, 5 more. More and more and more Japanese studios started to stand up for themselves. Because all it takes is one voice to have courage. And just like that, it was over. The battle for Japan's soul, Japan won it themselves. And I think that's something that's pretty cool. But the fact that they even had to stand up for themselves to begin with is just upsetting. Because they're the creators of the product. We are the people that import. You know what import is, right? Like, you guys, you do know what import means, right? Like, you know what the difference is between creating and importing a product, right? We as Americans, we consume products that we don't create. We import a lot of stuff. Which is fine. But as a person who imports, like, a video game or a movie or an anime, we don't have any creative rights to change that property. We didn't make it. And the reason why Japan had to stand up for themselves to begin with is because there are people in, like, who work for American anime companies that say, no, Japan just doesn't know any better. Which I think is incredibly rude to say, by the way. How does Japan not know how their product works? They created it. You didn't create it. All you did was change it into your language. That's not creating anything. That's subtitling. You're a subtitler. And you give yourself a fancy name like Localizer. You didn't do anything. You just took the Japanese text, very sloppily, and you put it in your own language. That's it. There's nothing creative about that. That'd be like me going to a foreign film and I interpret it in my own language and then I just release it and say, hey, check out my movie. I made this. This is my product. I'm going to put my name in the credits so I can feel validated for ruining someone else's property. You know? How bad? It's not like I need to stop and we need to go somewhere bad, right? Alright, I'm gonna be right back. No, I didn't take a hit of anything. Amber's blood pressure is rising. So the best way to help with that, she already had her medicine, so I gave her yogurt. Yogurt is a way that helps people with high blood pressure. But I had to look through the fridge because we're out of yogurt now. I don't have any more yogurt. So I basically told her that if it doesn't get any better, then I'm going to need her to take, you know, another pill. Like if her headache doesn't go away. Love you too. I lost track of what we think we were talking about anime. It's over though. Like once I lose my train of thought, I'm done. I'm sorry. That's how ADD works. Now all I'm thinking about is my wife. We were doing a task and I don't remember. That's the joy of ADD though, is like you're doing something and then you completely forgot what you were doing. I think we were talking about Warner Brothers, but I don't remember. So oh yeah, Warner Brothers. Yeah, I don't care what's going on with Warner Brothers. I think it's a bad deal. I think it's funny that they're trying to sue, Paramount's trying to sue them. It doesn't matter. They're going to go to Netflix. They're going to get screwed up. And then years later, when Warner Brothers isn't worth anything because of Netflix screwing it over, and it's going to be very expensive for somebody to buy the rights back, like the IP, because, I mean, it's not just, like, an acquisition of the company itself and everything comes with. Like, Netflix is going to be the IP owner, so you would have to buy the intellectual properties of Warner Brothers stuff plus Warner Brothers separately. Like, they'll probably just sell Warner Brothers Studios and all that other stuff later and just keep the intellectual property. Then you'll have to have somebody come in and rescue the intellectual property from these monsters. But will somebody do it? Probably not. Don't think so. I think that's the end game, is just to get the property rights of, you know, Harry Potter, to stick it to the Harry Potter creator, and, you know, own the chuds with owning the DC Comics properties, and, you know, all this stuff. Like, it's going to be very, very expensive to fix all this. But, you know, I could be wrong. Maybe it'll be like everything will be fine and Netflix won't go crazy. The problem is Netflix is Netflix. Netflix is crazy. That's where I'm going with, though. It's not that it comes out of a... The fear is very real because you see the type of programming that Netflix does. It's not like it's just, like, assuming things. Like, worst case scenario, it's like, that's how Netflix operates. They're insane. So... That's where it's coming from, like, paying attention to the type of content that Netflix makes, and then being like, oh yeah, they're going to do this with Batman, they're going to do this with that and that. They're not like a regular company. They don't care about making money. They lose money all the time. Netflix is one of the biggest companies in the world that takes gambles, and even though they lose, they keep trying. But they don't have as much money as Disney. Like, Disney has way more money. Disney's just smarter, though. That's why they finally got rid of Kathleen Kennedy, is because they're tired of, like... Star Wars was supposed to be a property that they made so much money off. And they haven't been. Like, action figure sales are down, collectibles are down. Most people aren't even buying the original trilogy merch anymore because people hate Star Wars. Like, offline, like, people have such a hatred for Star Wars that, you know... They just don't care about it anymore. For them, Star Wars ended now after Return of the Jedi, or after the Phantom, like after the Rise of the Sith or Revenge of the Sith. I forget what it's called. I want to say it's Revenge of the Sith because they win. They beat the Jedi, so that would be Revenge. It's not Rise of the Sith. Fake fan. I know a lot of people outside of the internet, and I ask them all the time. It's like, hey. What do you think about what they're doing in Star Wars? They said, I'm not watching Star Wars anymore. I didn't like Rise of Skywalker. I'm done. It's like, well, do you know about all the stuff going on in the internet? They're like, what? No, I didn't like the movie. I don't like Star Wars anymore. Don't really like Star Trek anymore either. I watched what they were doing on some streaming site, and it made me uncomfortable, so, you know, I'm not really a fan of Star Trek anymore. I keep hearing a lot of this from people my age, like, off the internet. Like, a lot of the general audience... They don't like all the stuff that people are pushing. They just don't really talk about it. You want to know what they do? They don't watch it. But then that hurts the brand because when a big movie comes out or a TV show, they don't support it. But the crazy thing is they think that people online, although people online are realizing this. I saw a couple articles the other day where activists were screaming at general audience because there were so many movies that came out that, you know, had the banner of like globalism and progressivism or whatever, and people didn't go to the theater, so they were actually making smear articles. Now they're attacking the general audience, people who aren't online. They're like, there's something seriously wrong with the general audience in America. It's like, no, it's not. They don't like what you're doing, so they're not going to support you. It's that simple. If you want the general audience to watch a movie, you need to make things that they're interested in seeing. It's not hard. You can, you know, beat your drum of whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's not going to sell. Like, that's where a lot of people are, is you have to make a product that people want to invest their time and energy in. It's nothing mean. It's just they don't want to be involved with that stuff. But now they're, like, making fun of general audience. That's not going to go well. It's not that the general audience will ever see it, but, I mean, you're just going to make more animosity for people not to see your movies. What does end up making it offline sometimes is, like, sometimes, like, directors, like, yell and scream at fans, and then that ends up on Fox News or something where people watch. So, it's not like you want to be constantly yelling at people all the time. That's not going to help anything. You know? But Hollywood people are weird. They don't pay attention to things. Which you would think they want to make money, but they don't. Disney wants to make money and revitalize the Star Wars brand again. That's why they have all kinds of cool Star Wars games and projects coming out. What was the big thing that you noticed about all the new Star Wars stuff coming out? The most important thing that I noticed about all the Star Wars characters is all the Star Wars characters look like Star Wars characters again. I didn't see any, like, different body types. I didn't see any weird haircuts, which is, like, a clear sign of certain things. If you give a girl a certain type of haircut in a video game, it's like a almost secret society thing that you're, you know, winking to a certain group. Women have normal hair again. They are attractive. They look like women. They're very thin and athletic if they're Jedi and things like that. Look at the trailer for with the Knights of the Old Republic thing. They could have, if they really wanted to, you know, bang their drum for globalism, they could have made the Star Wars characters look like the High Republic. They don't look like the High Republic. They look like the Knights of the Old Republic that we remember. Why did they do that? Well, they did that because they're trying to tell the audience, hey, look, Knights of the Old Republic is coming back, and it's actually coming back. Like, there's nothing here. Please, we need your money. Please buy this. You know? Because eventually, companies, they wake up because their profits bleed. You know? It's like, if you're in a video game or an anime business, you have to make money. If you chase phantoms, you're going to end up, like, becoming bankrupt. It's not like, you know, oh, you know, this is just, like, sensationalism. It's not sensationalism. It's real. You know, if you do anything to upset your core audience, you're going to lose money. It's not like some type of make-believe thing. It's real. Like, you have to make money. You have to. If you don't make money, you don't have anything. I think one more. Uh-oh. Aha! Is it over? Is it over? I did it! It's finally done! It is over, right? We're done. No more Riddler. There's nothing else on the map. No! Why does it say 95%? Curse you! Why? No! That's not true. That's impossible. Yeah! I don't want to search my feelings. This is stupid. I don't like this. This is dumb. Whose idea was it to 100% this nonsense? Wasn't my idea. I was tricked. I was whatever. I personally believe that the guy who replaced Kathleen Kennedy, I think that he has had to sit through, and if you look at Dave Filoni's eyes when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy talking about Star Wars and stuff when he worked for her, like, it looked like Dave was held hostage. Like, when he went behind her back to do the Luke Skywalker thing in The Mandalorian and things like that, that came from a place of love. And Kathleen Kennedy did not look happy that Luke Skywalker was the one to rescue Grogu. She probably wanted it to be Ahsoka or, you know, maybe somebody, like, maybe Sabine or something like that. But the fact they made it Luke Skywalker and they did that under Kathleen Kennedy's nose is probably one of the coolest things that happened under the Kathleen Kennedy regime. Because it was done out of spite, because she said that they couldn't use Luke Skywalker. Like, even though it took place after Return of the Jedi, there was a rumor going around that Kathleen Kennedy said that Luke Skywalker could not show up in the Mandalorian. Like, he could not. She didn't want Luke to show up. So Dave and all those guys, they did that purposely. And then they included him in the second season, too, a little bit. Or the Book of Boba Fett, Luke Skywalker played a big role. If Luke Skywalker does not show up in the Mandalorian, like, movies, which I'm sure they will now because Kathleen Kennedy is gone, but the Grogu movie coming out this year, they already filmed it. So I don't think Luke Skywalker will be in the first part of this Mandalorian movie. I hope he is, but I don't think he will be. But with Dave in charge now, like, Dave had to watch as Star Wars was held hostage at gunpoint, and people just had to go along with what people were saying. Because Dave has made so many great products about Star Wars. And what I hate is I've seen people on Twitter, they're like, everybody says that it was Kathleen Kennedy's fault, but they said, watch how the Star Wars fans are going to have nothing to say, or are going to have, like, so much bad things to say about Dave Filoni when everything continues the way it's been. And it's like, but it's not going to continue the way it is. You're the ones who are living in delusion. Like, Dave never wanted Luke Skywalker to end up that way. Like, he was devastated. Luke Skywalker's, like, his favorite character. Next to Ahsoka, you know. Luke Skywalker is a very important, like, figure to so many Star Wars fans in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s. You know, he's a very, very important fictional character. He's an icon. He's an icon that's been important for generations of Star Wars fans. He was never just going to be thrown aside. Just like, I don't think people understand that people did not hate the idea of the Justice League dying in the Suicide Squad. It's how they died. People would have been fine with Kevin Conroy's Batman dying because, you know, it would make sense. The actor is gone, and if he went out in a way that, like, really made the fandom like, oh my gosh, this is how Batman ends. Like, this is he dies sacrificing himself for the world or something like that. You don't think fans would, like, love that? That they would be like, that's what my hero would do. You know, to save the world, this is what Kevin's Batman would do. You know, he wouldn't sit on the bench, like, getting a Reddit mod giving him the runaround before having the trigger pulled. That's not a Batman thing. You know? Like, fans would have, like, really responded to Batman dying heroically. It would have made more sense. It would have been more in character with Batman. That everyone would have gotten behind. There might have been some people that'd be like, oh no, you killed my favorite character. But the way a character dies, that's important. Having a character, like, you know, be at the end of their life and they're, like, complete losers and, you know, whatever. Nobody likes that. Think about, like, in Japan, for instance, whenever they bring a famous character back and they kill it off, don't they kill off the character respectfully. When they bring back a famous character that, you know, held, like, a significance to somebody's generation, don't they treat that character, like, with reverence and respect and honor? Why in America, why do we treat our legacy characters like crap? Why do we treat someone else's hero like garbage? So we can build our hero up and you know, do all this other stuff. There's ways of passing the torch with fictional characters that is done correctly. And Kathleen Kennedy never had that in mind. Luke's death was humiliating, it was embarrassing, and it was upsetting to all Luke Skywalker fans for multiple generations. For 30 years or even 50 years of Luke Skywalker fans, nobody was really happy with that unless you were, you know, I don't want to swear. There's a word I could say, but I'm not going to. It's the opposite of chud. But I think it's a swear word, but it fits those people so well because they're yes men. They don't care about anything. They only care about being allies, thinking that it's going to lead to, you know, some type of acceptance for their lonely lives when all it does is just make them look more and more like wimps. But most Star Wars fans did not like what happened to Luke Skywalker. Even Mark Hamill doesn't like what happened to himself. I'm sure he would have wanted to actually face Kylo Ren and die in a lightsaber duel or something like that. Become a Force ghost on the field or something. But, you know, to have him have him die, like, from using the Force, and then be explained by Ruin Johnson that, oh yeah, it's like you OD'd on the Force, and Mark's like, what? He's like, yeah. He says, this is a cool thing, Mark. And now all these years later, Mark is like, why didn't Obi-Wan and Yoda tell me this could happen? He says, it didn't exist before. He says, how could it, what? He says, you know. But the only reason he's talking is because he probably won't be back as Luke Skywalker. But the thing is, are the Rey movies even going to move forward without Kathleen Kennedy now? Like, what are they going to do? They're going to use the veil of the Force to fix everything? I don't know. I think that they came up with the veil of the Force in order to retcon a bunch of stuff. I really think the veil of the Force is going to come into play someday. I think that that's like a very easy reboot option. I guess we'll find out, but I don't believe that Dave has any sinister motives involved with Star Wars, because when you love something and you grow up with it, you continue to love that thing. Like, I don't like DC Comics currently, but I don't hate them because I will always be grateful for how DC was for like 30 years of my life. I still play their video games every year. I don't hate them. I think that they're going down a very bad path that I can't follow, but I don't hate them. Wow, that guy got sniped too. I've never seen that.
And here I thought I'd finally met my intellectual equal. So much for that.
Oh, I think, yeah, they're going to do damage, Cole. Of course. I mean, if you... What happened with... everybody loves Reggie Fils-Aimé, right? You do realize that Reggie was hired as damage control, right? Nintendo had messed up so much with the N64 and the Super Nintendo era and their businesses and things like that. Iwata and Reggie, which were powerhouses in the game industry, don't get me wrong, but they played damage control for a lot of their presidencies. Reggie on the Nintendo side, like, made Nintendo cool again with the GameCube and all the marketing that they did. You know, a lot of people started to see Nintendo as not like a baby system as much, and then they announced the Wii and everybody was just like facepalm. But the Wii was fun. You know? But Reggie, like, he has even stated that a lot of companies bring him in to deal with damage control. Because he's good at it. He is insanely good at it. Iwata was the same thing. Iwata, like, was really good with the board, and he was this young, upcoming person, but in reality, after Yamaguchi, they weren't going to hire somebody young, like somebody under 60, to be Nintendo's president. They announced Iwata because, I mean, things were so bad with Nintendo, they figured, if things screw up with these young people, like, running it, and I mean young people, like, Iwata was like 40-something, I think. 38, 40 when he became Nintendo president. But they probably had this mindset, hey, if we have this young people and they screw up, we can easily tell the board, hey, you know, we were experimenting. We're just as shocked as you are. You know, don't worry, we're going to put our people back in power. It'll be fine. The same mistake's not going to happen again. You know, that's probably what they were banking on. And everyone in the game industry was so surprised what Nintendo did. They did the opposite of their playbook for decades. They turned the industry on its head with the Wii and with Nintendo DS. They completely thought outside the box in ways that people did not think would happen. You know, they literally caused a revolution to gaming. Like, they changed everything. They opened eyes that were closed. And they made boku dinero, too. It was all those memes. It prints money. You know? Because it did. But that wasn't that's not what they were hoping for. They were hoping that GameCube was going to be a big flop and they could get somebody in there who, you know, shared their vision or whatever. You know, they wanted to put the young people in charge because the young people are saying, hey, if you let us do this, we got this. And of course, you know, Japanese people see young people as inexperienced anyway, so of course, I mean, if you give them the reins, they're gonna screw up, right? Well, that didn't happen. It was the opposite. Like, Nintendo became like a household, not just a household name, like they led the industry under Iwata and Reggie. You know, you had like the dynamic duo of the game industry was like two damage control CEOs that did not do things the way they were supposed to. I mean, these men were like, you know, earthquakes in a good way. But yeah, right now what you're witnessing with, not anime, but like with the game industry, it's full-blown damage control. They realized they lost so much money, and they know where the fault is, but they needed an excuse to get rid of it. They couldn't just get rid of it by themselves because, you know, there was no way. But the game industry is a complete, like, rejection of everything that happened. They're done. Unless things backfire. You have to remember that these companies only care about making money. They don't really care about, like, one issue over the other. They care about, is this going to make me money or not? And if it makes me money, that's what I'm going to do. If it's not going to make me money, we can experiment. That's where they are. That's where they've always been. And I think that's a sensible approach, you know? I don't think there's anything wrong with that mentality. It's a business. You have to make money at a business. Was I one of the people that hated the prequels when it first came out? I did not love them, but I did not hate them. But I loved the original trilogy more, and I was a big, avid comic book, game, and novel reader for Star Wars. Like, I was all in on the extended universe. I loved it. Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker Adventures, Ben Skywalker, all that stuff. Like, I was, you know, full into it. I did not like Attack of the Clones. I made fun of Attack of the Clones with most of my Star Wars peers. Like, on the old internet, like, chat rooms and stuff like that. Before there was memes, there was, I hate sand. Everyone would always quote the second Star Wars movie and make fun of it because, for us, it was so bad. I liked Revenge of the Sith. The way the movie opened with that space battle and the combat. My problem with the prequel movies, the first two, is they dragged. Star Wars has to have a good amount of pacing and action. And the first two movies are very, very tortoise speed. The later movie, the final movie that George Lucas did, Revenge of the Sith, is like a roller coaster ride. There is pockets of intensity. There's pockets of calm, like, you know, right before you go up another hill or you go straight down. Like, it feels like a movie blockbuster. Like, it's that good. And it also ties into the original trilogy, too, with him becoming Darth Vader at the end, getting in the suit, all this other stuff. So I loved Revenge of the Sith. I think Revenge of the Sith is my favorite out of the... it felt like Star Wars, where the other one was, how can we tie this sci-fi thing into Star Wars? That's what it felt like when I was watching it. I saw The Phantom Menace in 1999. I saw it with some friends, and my friends, we all had, like, Star Wars t-shirts, and, you know, we wore Stormtrooper masks, whatever. We went in there, you know, everybody was hyped. Star Wars is back. Star Wars is back. I left the theater like, huh. Like, everybody was like, man, I really don't like that Jar Jar character. And I was like, yeah, he was annoying. Yeah. They're like, that lightsaber stuff, though. Yeah, that lightsaber stuff was dope. And they're like, the rest of the movie, it just dragged. It's like, yeah, it did. There was too much talking. A lot of water and talking. And then my friends would be like, yeah, it's like Waterworld with Jedis. It's like, exactly! There's a lot of water. And sand. But the pod racing was cool. Yeah, pod racing was really cool. So it's like, it was a mixed bag. And then Attack of the Clones happened, and everybody was like, wait, he had both his arms cut off, and he didn't say a word. He just went, nah. And they're like, well, he went into shock. It's like, yeah, but when Luke got his arm cut off, it was like, ah! You know? It was like, we were there. We felt for it. It was like, oh my gosh, he lost his hand. He's like, you know, it was painful. And here Anakin, he gets both his arms cut off. He's like, ugh. And we're looking at each other. We're like, did he just lose both his hands? Like, yeah, so he's going to have a robot arm and a... What? It's like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where a lot of us were. And then, a lot of people made, like, Attack of the Clones, they made fun of it. You know, I feel like if there was a different movie in between Attack of the Clones, I think Star Wars fans would have really liked the new Star Wars, like back then, you know? And sorry, headphone users, I was emphasizing a point. Like, when Mark Hamill had his arm cut off, he screams. It hurt, you know? He literally just had his arm chopped off, and at the same time, the lightsaber sodded his flesh. Cauterized him. Because the lightsaber's so hot, so it sliced through his arm like butter, and as the lightsaber's passing through, it also sealed shut the wound so he wouldn't bleed to death. I mean, so not only did you lose your hand, but you were just burned on top of that. That would hurt. You know, so Mark was like, ah! You know, he was making the audience feel for his pain. He just lost his hand, and even though you didn't lose your hand, you're sitting there in the theater and you're like, ah, my arm. You know? It's like you look at your wrist a certain way, it's like, what would that feel like? You know? Ow! I can relate to that. Man, that looks painful. But then they do the same thing. They're like, well, we got to make Anakin, like, you know, go through the same thing Luke did. It's like, chop off both his arms. It's like, okay, well, how's he going to respond? What? No, nothing? Nope. Not even a, ow! What? But, didn't he lost one arm and another, right? Yeah. So why didn't he scream? Oh, he did. He went, Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, it's like, it looks comical. It's like, are we watching a Star Wars parody? Is this Spaceballs 2 in 1999? Or not 1999, 2002? Are we watching Spaceballs? Spaceballs 2? What is this? No, this is Star Wars. Really? With all the jokes? This is Star Wars? Okay. The Force Awakens people didn't dislike. The thing with The Force Awakens that they don't want you to remember is most people, because I mean I was there, when I saw Force Awakens in the theater, it reminded me of A New Hope. Like it followed a lot of the same story beats as A New Hope. There was some differences, but the old man, being Han Solo, dies facing the villain, who the villain is a Vader clone. And the Vader clone happens to be Han's son, so that was a little bit different. But it's still the old mentor who's killed by the villain. That's the same. The incorporation of the Millennium Falcon, like the quest for... Instead of the quest to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. What are they doing? We need to find Luke Skywalker. He's our only hope. You know? I saw that movie and I just couldn't help, like, wow, there's a lot of similarities to the, I still liked it, but I was just like, is it supposed to be like A New Hope? Is this J.J. Abrams' version of A New Hope? Really? And I was like, okay. And then I saw, Rogue One, and it was like, whoa! That's nothing like the Star Wars I remember. That was really cool. Whoa! I like this. If Disney makes more Star Wars movies like this, I'm on board. And then they made The Last Jedi, and it was like, shit. Sorry. That was my honest reaction to The Last Jedi. What is this? It was... What? As a lifelong Star Wars fan, I was just like... I was like Raphael in the movie theater. You know Raphael's catchphrase? I was saying that a lot in the movie. And I remember leaving the theater, and then out in the hallway I went... You know, went... Damn! Like, out in the parking lot. Because I was mad. I just watched my hero die in a stupid way. It was like, what? I was mad. I yelled so loud, dogs barked. And Amber was like, you feel better? No! No! No, I don't! But I was hoping that Disney Star Wars was going to be like Rogue One, because Rogue One was incredible. Like, I had high hopes for Star Wars. Nope. Nothing like it.
Hey, say something for us.
Boink. Fair enough. Yeah. But, you know, I didn't go to the theater to see The Rise of Skywalker. After The Last Jedi, I was done. Like, Star Wars outside of gaming was dead for me. Because you have to remember, we had so many cool things for Star Wars come out in video games. Like, we had the awesome, like, EA franchise that was kicking off with the Jedi Survivor thing. That was really good. That was technically a Disney product. So, with Disney, it was like a mixed bag. It's like they were trying sometimes, and then they weren't trying with... Kathleen Kennedy's baby was the High Republic. And the fact that the High Republic bombed so badly makes me happy. Because Kathleen Kennedy's version of Star Wars didn't just facepalm. It jumped off a diving board in a pool face first. And it was glorious. You know? Like, Kathleen Kennedy really thought that the High Republic would be the future, and it catered to it catered to all the groups that you would think of. Everybody was represented in it, but all the stories sucked. So it was like jumping into a pool with no water with the confidence of jumping off the high dive. And then putting your head through the cement. So to see that fail spectacularly, that was enriching. Because it wasn't Star Wars. It was... You know what it was? It was Star Wars fan fiction. And it was fan fiction that was so badly done that you swear you were reading it on fanfiction.com, which was a website a long time ago. There was a website called fanfiction.com where every fandom would write fan fictions, and they were terrible. They were really, really bad. From Gundam Wing fan fictions to Batman to Superman and Batman, all kinds of stuff. You name it, the internet made it, and it was terrible. So imagine that fanfiction.com, people who used to write badly for a living, somehow got hired in the movie industry. That's what the past 7 years of Hollywood has been like. People who took their headcanons and tried to make movies. Not a good idea. I think that's the most polite way to describe what happened in comics and video games and movies. People who had no talent, no artistic integrity, no writing skills, ended up into the creative space. And it was a disaster of epic proportions. That's actually very freeing to say it like that. Why don't we use that term from now on? They were fan fiction writers. Well, I never wanted Kathleen Kennedy to get fired, though. I just wanted her... Again, the biggest reason why these people became our enemies is because they weren't willing to sit at the table with us. They had the same philosophy that we're not fit to sit at the same table as them because we don't agree with them. So they were never open to our ideas. They were never open to anything other than, you know, their points of view. And you know, as a creative, you can't do that kind of stuff because you're not willing to look past your own ego and listen to... to me, it's weird that you would get into a job where fandom is crucial. Like, fandom is how things float or sink, right? Fandom is how people buy things. If you're in a community that your main income source is from people that buy a product whether or not they like you or not, I would think that you would do everything in your power to appease the people that are giving you money. That's what I never understood about all this. You know, I never, ever thought that video games and movies and stuff would get as bad as they did because I always had a slim reasoning that no matter how bad things got, people would never go too far because they don't want to go out of business. And then I met activists who were basically like ride or die people. And, you know, my eyes were open to a whole breed of crazy that I didn't know existed. Like, I was a sensible person once, like, you know, there's no way that things are going to continue to get worse and worse. Like, eventually people are going to realize this isn't working. And it was like... Do you know what, like, woke people, what it was like for me? Like, the best, like, from a normal person's point of view. Imagine a child gets a brand new shiny bike, right? At the bottom of the hill, there's two paths. The path that leads onto a nice road with very little obstacles. And then there's a road that only leads into a brick wall. And it hurts when they crash into the brick wall. Yet the child, instead of learning their lesson, continues to drive their bike face first into the wall over and over and over. And instead of turning the vehicle around and going down the path with less resistance, they look at the wall and they're like, why aren't you moving? That's what woke people are like. They're children that continue to slam into the wall over and over again, thinking it's going to budge. That is the problem I have with these people. We can see that they are going to continue to slam into the wall, and we don't want them to, but we're tired of yelling, turn the bike! Go the other way! Now we want to see them fail because they're just too stupid to realize they can go a different way. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been. But think about it. For 7 years, when anybody ever brought something up, like a video game, this character is starting to look like a man. What did they do? They were like, oh, maybe in our next game we should maybe make the girl look more like a girl. No. Then they made the girl even uglier. And then you're like, facepalm. And then people bring attention to it again. They're like, now I can see an Adam's apple. They're like, oh, really? Now you're going to see peach fuzz. So, I mean, it just... and then they're here sipping their cups with, like, incel tears and all this other stuff. But the only people they're hurting are themselves. Where are these people that did this? You know, most of those people that clap back at, like, gamers and anime fans, where are they now? Most of these famous influencers on Twitter, what happened to them? They all got fired. Do you guys remember all the people that were fired in 2025 and 2024 in the game industry, and they were pleading with people, I need work! I need work! Why are all these gamers so toxic? These were the same people that were posting pictures of themselves drinking incel tears and owning the chuds. They got fired. Why did they get fired? Because they never stopped hitting the wall. We just want them to stop running into the wall. It's not funny anymore. It's like watching a kid with Down syndrome continually beat themselves up when you know you can step in and help them. We're enabling them to be stupid. And I'm tired of enabling stupid people. That's why I speak out. Because I'm tired. It's not a good use of my time. It's not a good use of anybody's time. We don't want to see people fail. We want to see fandom succeed. But it's not going to succeed if you keep trying to knock the wall down that's never going to break. The wall is too strong because the wall is common decency. The wall is morality. The wall is common sense, and you can't move common sense. Common sense exists because common sense is reality. You cannot bend reality. Reality will always be reality. No, I'm not kidding you. It's true. You can try and try and try to change reality, but you can only change reality in your world. You can't change everyone else's reality. You will never get everyone to get along. You will never get everyone to accept you. You have to move on. And if you have a job, you need to do your job. If your job is working with fandom, you need to listen to the fandom. They're your employer as much as your CEO or your boss that you check in. Because without your fans, when your fans leave, you have nothing. They're not going to come back. All these people that I've known who are like parents and stuff like that, you know what they're doing now instead of buying cable? And some of these people are atheists. They're buying Angel Studio stuff because Angel Studio stuff makes family, wholesome entertainment. And they liked it. They went to they saw David. David was a movie that barely got like 40 million, you know, in the bank or whatever, and it cost a lot of money to make. The Angel Studio people, like, they're making bank because people are buying their specialized cable network where they only show wholesome cartoons like VeggieTales and all this other stuff because parents are sick of Nickelodeon. Parents are sick of Netflix. No, they don't have the internet. They're not going to say things, but they don't need to say things. The general audience is not someone to ridicule. They're someone to try to, like, listen to because they're your job. If you're in the employment of fandom, whether it's making comic books, video games, anime, you know, manga, you need to listen to the people that pay your check. Not the people who write your check. Because without the people buying your product, you have no one to buy your product. And eventually, these people, they're going to get tired of saying, please stop hitting the wall. They're just going to be like, you know, this person is just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I'm just going to go somewhere else. Like, you know what? I've heard cool things about this anime. People are saying it's kind of like a DC comic book or something like that. I'm going to give it a shot. And as soon as they look at that anime, they're not coming back. You want to know why? Because if they went to a meet and greet and they talked to the person who made the book, the person at the book is not going to look to see what t-shirt you're wearing and condemn you on it. They're not going to condemn you for the hat you wear. They're not going to look at the cross around your neck and be like, oh, this person's a Christian, I'm not going to deal with them. The dude is going to take like 5 seconds of his time, the manga writer. He's going to smile at you, sign your autograph, and he's going to say thank you for coming. Unfortunately, the American creatives are the ones who will take out their phone, and if you look like you don't agree with their politics, they're going to film you. They might put you in the comic book where they have Batman beat you up in the future. Like, these are not nice people who are, you know, creatives in our fandom right now. So, Japanese people are winning over comic book and superhero fans just by being polite. Just by making cool characters that they don't have to worry about a topic they see on CNN and all this other stuff. The highest rated selling comic book in the world is now One Piece. It used to be Batman or Superman. Now it's One Piece. And now Demon Slayer is catching up to One Piece. Why? It's because people at the end of the day, they just want good entertainment. They want fun. They want cool heroes that they can root for. They don't care what's going on the internet. They don't care what's going on, you know, with whatever the protest thing of the day is. They don't care. Not caring doesn't mean that they hate you. It just means they're sick of you. There's a difference of being sick of somebody and hating them. You're annoying. Most people avoid annoying people. Why? Because they're annoying. Think about it. How often do you surround yourself in your own life with people that bother you? Like, be real. If there is a barista at a coffee store that bugs you, and you have another Dunkin' Donuts in your area, do you or do you not go back to the barista that pissed you off? Or do you go somewhere else? It's a simple question. When you go to a store and you have a bad experience at that store, do you continue to go to that store? Or do you go to the same store in another area that you have to drive a little bit further away from? Like, you have a Walmart in your store, it's very close, you're in your town, but there's another Walmart about 30 minutes away where you didn't have a bad experience. Are you going to go to the Walmart that you had the bad experience at? Or are you going to drive a little bit further away? It's the same Walmart, same stuff. You can buy the same stuff there. It just doesn't have the same people that work there. What are you going to do? You're finally out of the hospital, Joseph? You doing better? You doing much better that they can let you out? You're feeling better? Like you got a good, a good thumbs up so you can go? Here's something you'll never hear anybody say. You don't have to, make campaigns to fire people you don't like. People of all walks of life, they deserve employment. I know my haters believe that I don't deserve a job. They've been very clear about that. They cyber attack me. They tried to kill me. Their voice is very clear that I'm not allowed to be in this space. But everybody they deserve a job. Everybody has the right to pursue happiness and to make money. You have no right to take that away from somebody. What people need to learn is what my generation learned. You need to get along with people that have differences of opinion. you are never going to be able to make your utopia and your echo chamber completely, because there will be people inside your echo chamber that are going to change. Because common sense comes from us like at one point. No one can run away from common sense forever. There is something, like if you are a part of that fandom, or you're part of that activist crowd, there is something in there that you don't like. And the very second that you say something that is contrary to what they believe, you're out. Then what are you going to do? All your friends, all your entertainment, all of that stuff was tailored to that one group. And now you've been black-sheeted. What are you going to do? You know? So what people need to do, and this is what I'm hoping and praying for the next couple years, is that people once again learn how to agree to disagree and learn how to work with people that have difference of political opinion, religious opinion, and culture opinions. If you do not, there is no hope for modern society or a civilized world, because people have to work together to make great things. You can't make great things on your own. It's by Americans working together that we create amazing things and we have an amazing country. Okay? You will never hear woke people say that. So I'm telling you, that's the most important thing that I can teach anybody, is you have to be civil. Whether you like the person or not, you got to be civil. And you have to find common ground. Something that, you can look past your differences, and especially if you're at a job, just do your job. Just shut up and do your job. Don't try to get each other fired. Do your job. A job is no place to be discussing the type of things that you discuss on Blue Sky or Twitter anyway. A job is some place that you're being paid by an employer to do your job. I have a very unique job that I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my streams. I talk about all kinds of stuff. People give me super chats and ask me my opinion on things. Sometimes I have topics, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I talk about food. Sometimes I talk about cats. Sometimes I talk about the weather. I have a very unique opportunity to talk about whatever I want. Because the only person telling me what I can and cannot do is me. But I do talk about weird things sometimes. My wife especially talks about lots of weird things. But that's our channel, Sometimes I mean, more often than not, I talk about Batman stuff. But usually, it's very easy to steer ADD people into long, dragged-out explanations of things, because we are told at a young age that we're stupid. People with dyslexia, people with ADD, we have to argue our opinion like we're Phoenix Wright, and trying to explain to people, our position on things, and it takes a while. Whereas most people, they can, come to an understanding pretty quickly. ADD people, it takes a long time. And, teachers don't have that kind of patience, and nobody does, and they just label you and all this other stuff. But because I have a YouTube channel, I can talk about whatever I want, and if it takes a long time for me to get to my point, eventually I get to my point. It just takes a while. It's good to hear from someone who's considered just a regular average Joe, because I represent what a lot of people hate about the general audience, what they hate about gamers. I'm not one of those geeks and gamers guys, or those what do they call them? What was a side scroll? Yeah, the side scroller people. Any of those people. Like, I come at things from both a religious point of view, but not like a Melanie Mac type thing. I'm the opposite of her. I don't believe in a lot of things that she does. I don't think that it's good. But I'm not gonna, make a stance against a YouTuber. I'm just saying, like, I behave very differently than a lot of these high-profile people. And while I do share some opinions that are similar to theirs, it's not exactly the same. Like, a lot of these people, too, they're at the same, type of, end road that the activists are, that they can't get along, that the only way to, cleanse everything is to get rid of everybody. But I think that if there's a way for people to work together and realize, hey, we're both working the same job, and we can easily make a cool product together if we, find some common ground. We know for a fact gamers don't want this. But why don't we take a Kingdom Come Deliverance thing? You know, why don't we make an option for same-sex couples? It won't be part of the main story, but what if we throw people a bone? You know? If there were more discussions like that, I don't think there would be any culture war. But you certainly can't take a mainstream game and then force that as a main option, because it is going to make people upset. But I don't think anybody will care if you make it optional. You know, if you aren't forced into that, you know, I think more people would be open to things, or at least they might listen to you and hear you out on some stuff, but it will never be allowed in mainstream because it doesn't belong there. You know, Japan is much smarter than us with that. They get it. They're like, yeah, we have this stuff, of course we do, but we don't put it in the main stuff. You have to go looking for it, which I think should be the same thing in America. I think it'd be much, much better. But of course, everything that I said is going to be viewed as toxic and hatred and all this other stuff, because, you know, these people are blind. These people are possessed with demons anyway, that anytime you speak the truth, they close their ears and they shut their eyes. But I'm not speaking to them. I'm not speaking to the people that are lost, because they'll forever be lost. I'm speaking to my audience who I care and love about, and trying to make sure that you guys get your heads on straight, because I don't want anything bad to happen to you. We've had viewers that have become corrupted by the cult, and they became nasty, horrible people that have done very criminal, illegal things too, and they were once good people. I don't want to see any of you guys go down the Anakin Skywalker route, because I care about you too much. And as someone who is much, much older than you, I do stake an interest in how your life turns out. And I just want the best for you. You can believe it or not, but that's what I do, what I want. I literally have a bullseye on my back all the time. But I still speak out about stuff because it's the right thing to do. Because I don't want to see anything bad happen to any one of you guys. You got me? Don't want to see any more, no more jokers. Because that breaks my heart the most. People that I spent time and energy teaching morality and using Batman as a moral compass ended up becoming villains. It sucks. Like, that's my biggest failure as a content creator is... Like, I went out of my way to use Batman to describe morality and moral teachings and good versus evil for decades and decades and decades. And so many people turn their hearts to evil. That sucks. Like, that makes me feel like a failure. That makes me feel like, wow, what was the point of doing all that stuff? What was the point of all those viral videos and teaching right and wrong for them to end up on the wrong path? I feel like a failed father or a failed uncle. Like, I failed those people. Maybe if I was a bit more clear and I wasn't as vague back in the day, because I'm not vague anymore. I speak, like, with thunder now. You know, I carry not a stick, I carry a hammer. So I've made a lot of changes over the years where I don't mince my words. Because I want the people that need to hear it to hear it. The people who hate it, I don't really care. You know, screw you. But the people who are open to things and they're listening to, you know, stuff and they're willing to improve their lives, that's who I'm speaking to. As well as to warn people that you need to be careful of this and that. So,
Right the night we're having.
if that makes me an activist, cool. But I see myself kind of as a gamer preacher now, I guess. I don't know. It's starting to sound like my dad, like doing a sermon. Don't use Frank Miller Batman to teach morality. When did I? Don't worry, Luke, I went the Nightwing route of life. There you go. That makes me happy. Yep, it's the core values that matter the most. That's correct. See, you already have your right head on your shoulder. I don't need to preach to the choir. Like, some of you guys, you have your head screwed on straight. Like, all I'm doing is just reinforcing, like, an already strong foundation, you know? But just so you know, like, my philosophy will never be allowed on Geeks and Gamers. It will never be allowed to be taught on side-scrollers. It will never be... No podcast, no far-right or Gamergate or anti-woke. No people will ever let me be on a podcast, whether it's woke or anti-woke. So the only voice I have is my own channel. Because I have stances that both sides don't like. So I can't fully belong to either one. And there's more stuff that I have against the woke side, like the identity politics, than I do the anti-woke, but I don't agree with the execution that a lot of anti-woke people have, like how they handle things and how they add gasoline to the fire. Like, I think we need people who put out the fire instead of making the fire spread. Like, if I can be a person that helps put out the fire, I think that's kind of cool. Or, maybe I start a generation of people that become like people who put out fires instead of making the fires burn more. That would be cool. That would be a nice legacy to leave behind. But anyway, we're going to do the Deathstroke thing next. I don't know how many Riddler things we have left. I don't want to look, but I think it's almost done now. It's 5% away. Anyway, that's it. That's all. Let's get this Deathstroke thing rolling. Okay? I'll see you guys in like a few minutes. I need to grab a drink. Yeah, Slade, because you guys wanted Slade. Give the people what they want, right? Thank you guys for the super chat. See you on the next one.